Hi, welcome to Wu Says. This is another episode where we get real about the US, China, everywhere and everything in between. It's two superpowers, one global story. We're taking a step back in time in this episode. We're continuing our conversation from the previous about the reform wave in the 1990s when post-communist countries were rebuilding their economies from shifting it from centrally planned economies to the future, to capitalist-led market structures. And these are the moments that offer insight into why reform is so hard and why impatience can backfire. So today on the show, we have Professor Wu Wing Tai, who has been studying US-China relations and has been looking at economic history for the past decades. He has had a front row seat to some of these very consequential reform episodes in the 1990s. Prof. Wu, last episode we were talking about Poland and Poland's immense reform episode. Talk to me a little bit about why today, in hindsight, we consider Poland a success story.
Well, the foundations of the success came with first a political change. On the Polish election of June 4th, 1989, a non-communist government was overwhelmingly elected, much to the surprise, because everything had been gerrymandered such that the communists was expected to retain 1/3 of the seats so that the non-communists would not be able to amend the constitution. But what happened was all the gerrymandered constituencies supposed to vote communist, which were roughly the areas where the state bureaucrats lived, where the state factories were. They all voted for the non-communists because they all were inspired by the vision of the possibility of the country becoming like West Germany. So these people who came to power, quite unexpectedly, now with unconstrained power, because they got almost every seat except for 2. Now, and with the fear of potential Russian invasion from the 1956 memory of Hungary, 1968 memory of Czechoslovakia, they decided they have to move very quickly in the directions that they have chosen, which is to become like West Germany.
Okay.
So 4 steps. First step is overnight prices were freed. The state no longer set the prices. This is something that could be done overnight because all you got to do is say, I won't enforce whatever the price is.
Yeah.
The second thing that they did was to stop the inflation. The inflation was largely caused by the government trying to counter the economic slowdown by printing a lot of money. To push purchasing power. But instead of enlivening output, it only enlivened inflation.
Right.
So the next thing they did is to say, we stop printing money right now.
Okay.
Now, that is something you can do immediately too. You just
stop the printing presses.
That's
yes.
right. And the third thing is we will open up the economy to trade. There used to be heavy tariff for goods that are coming in, heavy taxes on goods that are going out.
Right.
And if people want to send money, they got to get permission. And if people want to send money in, they got to get permission. The third is internationalization, where they say, we stop collecting taxes on goods moving in and out as long as it is not opium that you are bringing in and illegal drugs, any goods can pass through.
Right.
And money, you want to take money out, go ahead, but you want to bring money in, welcome. So instant internationalization.
Okay.
Now, these things can be done immediately because all it needs is the government to stop enforcing the regulations.
Right.
The fourth thing that they did could not be done overnight, which was privatization of the economy, because the economy was almost 100% state-owned,
State-owned.
other than the bicycle you own yourself. Now, given in that situation, you know that you cannot give instant privatization, because what happens is then the managers will just take it. They're the ones in charge. If you say, it privatized, then
Yeah.
straight away take it. So they committed to total privatization, but they would launch a process by which the privatization would be fair. How do we distribute the assets,
Yeah,
to the
private
people?
assets. Oh,
So the commitment to privatization was there. And to get the commitment to privatization is that it's legal to run your own enterprises. You can open any kind of, you can open a small shop, you can open a factory, whatever you do, that's fine.
yeah.
What's the immediate consequence? The Western press crowded in. The immediate thing they see was prices rose 50% the first day. Prices rose another 50% the second day. After 1 week, prices had driven up by 1,000%. And all the Western press, New York Times, Washington Post, Times of London, they said, my God, the Polish government's gone mad. They free the prices and the prices have jumped. And the prices are so high such that when you go to the store, you see that the goods are there because the price is so high,
Right.
people cannot
Cannot
afford
afford
to
to
buy
pay.
it. There will be a rejection of this government. They have reformed too quickly.
That was the verdict in the
That was
initial
the
verdict.
initial
Oh,
verdict.
okay.
And because you look at China, China did not free up all the prices. China, as we had this talk about in a previous episode, had two prices for the same thing. One in the state store, one in the free
That's
market.
right, yes.
These guys just rejected it. So they think this is going to be disaster.
Right.
But after 1992, after the fall of the Soviet Union, the KGB archives were open. And you know what the KGB reported to Gorbachev? Because Gorbachev was very interested to see what are they doing and what were the results. The reports that came back to Gorbachev is, the Poles have done it. They have succeeded in what we have not been able to do in the last 20 years. The stores are full of goods, unlike the empty shelves. Now, let's talk about that question. On one side, the Russian agents saw all these goods on the store. They were very impressed. They said this is a good thing.
And they thought it was a good thing.
And whereas the Western reporters saw all these goods in the store and they said, my God, look at the inflation. No one can afford to buy it. The truth was, if a store cannot sell the goods, would it just leave the goods sitting on the shelf? It would try to return it to the distributor or to launch a fire sale to get rid of the goods, you know. The reason is the following. The rise in prices was really fake. Because under central planning, the price of goods were very, very low. The only trouble was when you go buy it, it is not there. Low price, but you cannot buy the goods. And since the price was low, you have to ration that. So everybody had a coupon. So just because you got a coupon doesn't mean that you can buy. But if you happen to be the first in line, your coupon will boleh pakai lah. So you get it. Whereas if you're the last in line with the coupon, come back tomorrow.
There's nothing left here.
So suppose you cannot buy bread that day. Does it mean in your family doesn't eat? No, there's a black market. The black market sells bread. The black market sells vegetables. The black market, what is the price in the black market? The price in the black market is here, and the price in the state store is here. So if you need to buy something, you got to pay the black market price. Now, think of what happened when they removed the price controls. The state prices goes up. Where would it go up to? In the direction of the black market. The black market prices were so high because people were taking risk to sell you, to get the goods and sell it to you.
Because it was illegal
It was illegal.
That
They could
economy,
be shot. They could be shot. But now, you can be a big shot selling the goods at a lower price. You are not taking the risk anymore. So what happened is state prices go up and the black market price comes down. And they still meet closer to the black market prices.
Right.
the inflation is basically capturing a phenomena that had already happened, which is the actual price of what you need to buy is closer to the black market price. So that jump in the inflation was a jump that actually had already happened, a recognition.
It's artificial, right?
Artificial,
Yes.
yes. And the other thing that could see was the government stopped printing money, which means that, and who were the money given to? The loss-making enterprises. The loss-making enterprises were selling goods that people were not buying. What were the loss-making enterprises? If you look at industry, that's like industrial goods, shoes, textiles, washing machine, versus cement, iron, chemicals. Cement and iron are important if you want to build another factory, and if you want to lay more railroads. Whether you run any train on it or not doesn't matter, but you got to lay. What the mark of central planning was, all these countries began as pretty poor economies, so they had to invest heavily in urbanization, building new factories, building towns. So cement and iron were high priority. But by 1980, these are already fully urbanized, industrialized economies, but they still continue to make proportionally the same amount of iron and steel and not making consumer goods.
Right.
So the iron factory were all loss-making. They put them in storage. Or you open another iron factory to make more iron. So all this printing of money was to subsidize these people. So when you stop printing money, they couldn't make more iron, they cannot make more cement, so output fell. So GNP fell in all these countries. So the Western reporters say, Mati, this is terrible. Prices so high, people cannot buy the goods. And you look at GDP, is falling. But the amazing thing is, this was done in January 1st, 1991. 1990, January 1st, 1990, all of this. The elections at the end of 1991, the same party got elected
Again.
despite this collapse in output and rise in inflation.
Wow.
Because the collapse was in iron and steel and cement. Who eats iron and cement? You cannot eat that many iron pills. You know, that's the wrong kind of iron pills. But what happened was, all these private businesses were booming. And do you think that if you are making money, the first thing you do is to rush to the Department of Statistics and say, hey, I'm making lots of money. Make sure I appear in the GDP statistics. If you do that, you are volunteering to say, come collect some taxes.
Yes, that's right.
So increases in output were not registered. Collapse in output is fully recorded. And at the same time, when they opened up the economy, goods started flowing in from abroad. So that's why the stores were filled up with goods.
Yeah.
And they were filled up with goods because people could afford to buy the goods.
This
That's
was
what happened. They were buying the black market goods anyway.
The growing pains of a free market economy.
Yes. So it was just chaos, but you could see people were not unhappy. They elected the same party one year later.
Okay, all right. So if Poland was a success story, talk to me about Russia in comparison with the pain that Poland went through and the results that they saw after that. How does Russia compare?
There was a very big difference, because the first thing for a government to run is you must be able to pay the civil service. That's very important. And you want to be able to pay the civil service without causing high inflation. If you just print the money to give it to them, but the production of goods has not increased, right?
Right.
So paying them more just means prices will go up. In the case of Poland, the West came in with financial aid,
Oh,
which allowed the government to be able to pay the civil servants to keep it going. And they were able, and they got external aid to buy crucial materials. Like if the factory machine breaks down, all you need is a certain WAF. You need the foreign exchange to buy it. The IMF, the World Bank, the US, the Europeans basically took out their wallet and put it on the table and said, take what you want.
Take what you need.
Yes.
Okay, wow.
Because they saw it as temporary.
Okay.
Because once you can get things back to normal, Poland will have lots of a high ability to repay everything.
Okay.
And furthermore, it will no longer be an ally of Russia, which was still
Yeah, that was the
and
political
other thing.
considerations, yes.
So when the Russians who were greatly impressed by what happened in Poland because they saw this economic miracle. And at the same time, the collapse continued under Gorbachev. And of course, Gorbachev tried to make changes, but his changes failed to work, failed to revitalize the economy. So the establishment, which is the KGB, conducted a coup against Gorbachev. So Gorbachev was arrested in August 1991, and a new person came in, and this new person was so unfit for the job because you must understand, everybody got promoted because they were able to follow orders. He was so nervous of taking over, such that after announcing the coup, he collapsed on public TV because he was totally drunk. He had fortified himself with alcohol so that he could stand and make the announcement.
Liquid courage, I see.
And the liquid just went through him by the time. Okay. At that time, there was another power center emerged with Yeltsin. And the army split. So there was one group with the KGB, one group with Yeltsin. And they fought the most rational of wars. They sent people to each other's side to count how many guns the other side got, how many planes the other side got, and they found out Yeltsin got more guns and more planes. So the other side said, okay, don't kill us, and we'll go back to, you win. So yes, that was a very rational war. We see who would win in the end, and say, okay, you would win in the end.
Very practical, very practical.
Let's not need to fight. Let's win. Let's almost, okay. He took over. And his people wanted to do exactly what the Poles did on the four fronts, which is the free prices,
price liberalization,
and
stop inflation.
They could do, but they wanted to stop inflation. They wanted to have internationalization, but the domestic industries are so powerful that they prevented the internationalization. They said, no, you cannot kill us. We are your strongest supporters. And so he was afraid of the factories closing. He did not internationalize. To buy political support, because Yeltsin now has to have a new election, because a new election as president of Russia. So he privatized the enterprises by basically selling it to people who would donate to his political campaign.
This is the rise of the oligarchs.
The rise of the oligarch.
Got it.
So this privatization was basically mass stealing. Like oil fields of Russia were given to individuals.
Okay.
These are national assets handed to individuals. That's why you got Khodorkovsky, who founded a company called Yukos, which owned most of the Russian oil. So you could see it was a very corrupt process. And why was that done? Because the Russians were expecting the West to give it the same aid as it gave Poland. But Washington, someone in Washington, the Washington elite or the Western elite thought Russians are evil. Well, there are many reasons. One group think they're just evil because you don't help evil people.
Right.
The other one says that they are not evil, but they are going to be a big, strong country after everything is over. And a big, strong country is a rival to us. And why should we build up our rival? We want them to be become a rival longer time from now.
Not just yet.
And then there's a third group which says it's the time for them to be our friends. Let Russia join the West. Let Russia finally fulfill the goal of Peter the Great and Catherine the Great. Russia being part of the West. There was this group of people pushing for that. Here is a chance to extend a hand after years of confrontation. Say, I am your friend. And the Bush Jr. was surrounded by people who had fought the Cold War, still hated Russia, still suspicious of Russia. So, no money for Russia.
Right. The sentiment
We'll
wasn't right.
see what it crashed.
Oh.
And because it crashed, they went on to recruit Eastern Europe into NATO. The promise to Gorbachev was, if you don't invade Poland to take it back to central planning, NATO will not expand beyond its present borders. That was the guarantee given to Gorbachev. But with the collapse of the Soviet Union, there was no way for Gorbachev to say, hey, you got to honor the deal,
yes.
because it's too weak
Yes.
to make that threat. And the West expanded, and all of Eastern Europe now is part of NATO and part of EU.
NATO expanded as well.
So that part was they needed the money because the West did not come through. So how do you need the money? Corruption. And you just let the factory managers steal the firm. And that ultimately delegitimized the government. Corruption, in other words, is very important when undertaking reforms. If you do reforms but there's corruption, the reform in a way is delegitimized. And which you could say is why Xi Jinping went on this big corruption drive upon taking power, because he sees that as the threat to China's continued economic growth.
Okay, so on that note, I want you to hold that thought. We're going to come back for another episode where we talk specifically about China's story. So we'll be back with another episode of Wu Says. I'm Melissa Idris signing off for this episode where we get real about the US, China, and everywhere and everything in between. Come back for the next one soon. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.